Elden Ring is a game with a lot of different types of magic. You've got ice, fire, gravity, you can summon swords, hammers, skeletons, you can even throw the moon at people if you want. Most of these are useful. Most. One magic type that isn't useful is thorn sorceries. In fact, I think these might be the worst magic type in the game. So, because I hate myself, I was dumb enough to think these would make a fun challenge run. They did not. Why, you ask? Well, Briars of Sin, the only one that can be found before going all the way up to the mountains, stun locks you for 4 whole seconds just to cast one time, barely does any damage, barely does any bleed build-up, and as the cherry on top, it does damage to you. Thank you, FromSoft. So when I decided to start this challenge run, I had no idea just what kind of suffering I was getting myself into. Okay, so I forgot to save the VOD on Twitch, so a lot of what you're gonna see is a historical reenactment. That's why it might seem a bit weird at times. First off, I used a spear to kill the guy who drops Briars of Sin. Then, because it's now tradition on my channel to kill the big dragon, I went over to Caelid and got the stats needed to use the spell. From there, I gathered some golden seeds and went to Stormvale to take on the first boss of the game, and this is where I realized I'd made a huge mistake. In Margaret's first phase, the only attack I could take advantage of without being hit back was his jumping attack. But in phase 2, this attack changes, so he can react faster and hit back before I'm actually out of the animation. No matter what I did, I could not dodge this in time. This, combined with the damage from my own spells, meant I was using too many heals, so I had to change strategy. I grabbed the Blessed Dew Talisman and the Icon Shield to give myself a slow heal over time. Extremely slow. This then began the slowest boss fight of all time. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of me originally beating Margit, but I did attempt to recreate it. But I didn't even beat him because I ran out of FP. This took 15 minutes. 15 for the first boss in the game, and I didn't even win. Alright, Margit, let's get it over with. Get it over with. What a waste of time that was. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it that I did beat Margit. From there, I went to Godric, and actually saved my live stream this time. And because I didn't want to spend another 20 minutes in a boss fight, I came up with an idea that, at the time, I thought would be genius. The Iron Jar Aromatic is a perfume that turns you into a big hunk of pure metal. With it, I thought I could turn myself into a tank build and not have to worry about being hit back whilst I'm casting my spell. To get it, you have to go to the Azure Side Tomb, also known as the confusing tomb with a bunch of bomb jars in it, also known as Hell. This was a terrible idea. The reason this was so terrible is because this tomb is filled with imps, which with this build are incredibly hard to kill. But surround, the imps aren't difficult enemies, how could they be so hard, I hear you say? Well, the imps' weapons cause bleed buildup. Casting my own spells causes bleed buildup. Combine the two of these, and what do you get? Blood loss. And simply running away didn't help, because this would cause a bigger group of them to eventually gang up on me. I also tried using the exploding jars to kill them. This did not work. So, I went to a nearby tower to unlock an invisibility spell, hoping that I could sneak past them. This did not work. He knows I'm here! I'm transparent, how does he know? They all know. I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Eventually, I just circled them around to give me enough space to use the teleporter. Sometimes this worked, sometimes it didn't. After spending a long while wandering through the dungeon, I eventually started making some progress, until I did this. Is this gonna kill me? Why did I do that? And then, because I didn't remember how to get back there, I spent even longer hopping through chests and dying. No. What? It made me freeze. I dodged it, I actually moved, and then the game just made me freeze. Eventually, I did manage to get back, but by that point, I'd ran out of FP. And since I'd rather commit unalive than start over again, I used the trusty Morning Star. If you have an issue with this, go make your own video, you cretin. And finally, I found the recipe so I could take all the runes I'd collected and leave. Would you like to know what my reward was for all of that suffering? I spent 2 hours getting that. Yep, Iron Jaw wasn't even useful. I ended up using the same strategy I used against Margit. This led to me fighting Godric for 20 minutes before I ran out of FP again. After that, I went to break several household objects and then for a nap. The next day, I leveled myself up a bit, completely legitimately, and this time it only took me 10 minutes to kill Dragon Boy. That took an obscenely long time. From there, I was left with two daunting choices: Radahn or Renalia. And I don't care how many times you correct me about her name, I have formed a habit. I will not change. First, I decided to go for Renalia, and that was a mistake. Because I was wasting so much health and FP on her kids, and because she has a resistance to magic, meaning my damage was absolutely pathetic. On top of that, it took 5 casts to trigger bleed against her, and after triggering a status effect, it becomes harder to trigger it again. I don't know how many casts it would have taken to trigger bleed a second time on Renalia, because there wasn't enough time before she explodes. So, right off the bat, I could tell that that wasn't going anywhere. So I headed over to Caelid to fight Radahn. This was awful. It took so long just to get through a quarter of his health, and this is where he ups his aggression and he gets the ranged attack, making it even harder to just run away and heal. And then every time I died, it took so goddamn long to get back to where I was. I just stopped having fun, and I gave up. Listen, there are dozens of challenge runners on YouTube who will grind endlessly at the hardest challenge imaginable. That's not me. I'm not into cock and ball torture. If that's what you're looking for, you can go watch somewhere else. I care more about having fun and making an entertaining video than I do about the actual challenge itself. So I figured the best thing to do was to just move on. I know this video ended up being a little bit weird, but I didn't want to waste the footage. So I hope you enjoyed this weird half-aborted video. Here's more of my dog May, and if you for some reason enjoyed this, then you should follow me on Twitch. Okay, thanks, bye.